The marble fountain burbled softly as I drove on to what should have been my empty 15-acre lot. But instead of untouched forest and quiet, the sight that greeted me was jaw-dropping, a massive, gleaming mansion, complete with a circular driveway, a 6-car garage, and an entrance that looked straight out of a luxury magazine. And right in the heart of my land, my legally recorded property, owned for over a decade, it stood. Out came a woman in crisp white tennis attire, smoothie in one hand, phone in the other, waving like I was some hired gardener. Blonde hair slicked back in a ponytail, oversized sunglasses glinting in the sun, likely more expensive than most people's mortgages. "Excuse me, you're trespassing," she sang in a sugary, sing-song voice, the kind that clearly never met the word no. "This is private HOA property now." I leaned forward, opened the glove compartment, and pulled out my laminated deed, something I'd kept handy after years of handling property disputes as a real estate attorney. "No," I said calmly, holding it up. "You built a 9,000-square-foot mansion on my land." She laughed, loud, condescending, that laugh that makes you double-check your teeth. "Oh, sweetie," she purred, lowering her sunglasses to give me a perfect view of her meticulously made-up eyes. "This is HOA land. It's always been this way. I'm Patricia Peaton, president of Riverside Estates HOA. I personally approved this development. Unfortunately for her, I wasn't just a landowner, I was also a lawyer who had spent years winning cases exactly like this, and she had just made the biggest mistake of her entitled life. My name is Daniel Morrison. I bought this wooded property outside Riverside Valley 8 years ago. Peaceful, remote, and crucially outside city limits and HOA jurisdiction. I had surveys, county records, official boundaries locked down beyond dispute, 15 acres of pristine forest, a creek winding through it, untouched for decades. My dream? A modest cabin, a retreat for retirement, a sanctuary from city life and law practice. But Riverside Valley grew. And with them came Riverside Estates HOA, led by Patricia Peaton, a woman who treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom. Patricia was infamous. She fined neighbors $500 for uneven shutters, targeted an elderly couple for planting a vegetable garden that didn't match the aesthetic. She even carried a ruler to measure lawn height, sending violation notices for grass a quarter-inch too tall. Then came her son-in-law, Bradley Harrison, a slick real estate developer with a plan for a luxury estate project. Patricia's eyes lit up, and my land became her target. Ownership didn't matter. She insisted my property fell within HOA boundaries, citing a 1994 map that looked like it had been drawn in Microsoft Paint. The lines didn't match reality, and magically, my parcel appeared within their jurisdiction. She didn't check public records. Didn't contact me. She greenlit Bradley's development and fast-tracked approvals with the architectural committee, basically just her best friend Margaret, and Margaret's husband, who never attended meetings. I was in Colorado, tied up with a case when the bulldozers rolled in. My neighbor Earl tried to call, but by the time I got his voicemails, 3 acres of century-old trees had already been cleared. I booked the first flight back. When I arrived, I was speechless. They weren't just building a house, they were constructing a monument to excess. Imported Italian marble columns, a 1,000-bottle wine cellar, Brazilian hardwood floors, a butterfly-shaped swimming pool. No county permits, no zoning variances, no environmental studies. Yet somehow, plumbing was installed, power hooked up, and a shiny gold-lettered mailbox reading Peaton's stood proudly at the driveway. I drove straight to the HOA office, a converted dentist's building. Of course, Patricia was there, perched behind a desk stacked with violation notices, looking like a suburban queen on her throne. "Mr. Morrison," she said coolly without looking up, "I hear you're back in town. I trust you've seen the improvements we made to that abandoned lot." "My lot?" I said sharply, slamming my deed down. "The one you illegally developed without permission." She looked at it like it was a grocery receipt. "We're claiming historic community rights based on continuous use and improvement doctrine," she replied, the legalese rolling off like she just Googled it, HOA speak for squatting with style. "Patricia," I said, my voice steady, courtroom ready, "you've built on private property without permission. That's trespassing, theft, and about 6 other crimes I could list off the top of my head." Patricia leaned back, lounging like she was at a spa, flashing a smug smile. Prove it in court, then, she purred. Meanwhile, security will escort you off the Cho property. That was her second mistake. I immediately retained my former law partner, Sarah Chen, one of the sharpest property attorneys in the state. Within 48 hours, we pulled every record from the county clerk's office. And there it was, black and white. I was still the sole legal owner of the entire 15-acre parcel. No sale, no transfer, no easement, no lien, nothing. When we showed the file to Frank Rodriguez, the county's veteran building inspector, his face went pale. 30 years on the job, and he'd never seen anything like this. Patricia hadn't filed a single legitimate permit. Instead, she handed in a stack of HOA forms with fancy letterhead, pretending they had legal power. She claimed the mansion was a community beautification project exempt from county oversight. Even worse, she'd used HOA funds to bankroll her personal paradise, $75,000 for landscaping, actually paid for marble fountains, imported plants, and her opulent mansion. I wasted no time. I filed a formal cease and desist. Patricia's response? She doubled down. Private security guards blocked my own driveway, planting traffic cones, barricades, and a sign reading, "Private HOA use only, violators will be prosecuted." That was her third mistake. I called the sheriff. Within an hour, Deputy Martinez arrived. One look at my deed, one look at the guards, and he sighed like he'd seen this kind of stupidity before. "Ma'am," he said to the lead guard, "remove these cones and let this man onto his property." But Patricia Peaton said, "I don't care what Patricia Peaton said," Martinez cut him off. "This is his land. Move the cones or I'll arrest you for obstruction." Seconds later, the cones vanished. I walked up the new driveway, Deputy Martinez at my side, with a process server carrying a thick envelope. There was Patricia, lounging on the faux French patio, champagne in hand, celebrating with her son-in-law Bradley like conquering royalty. "Patricia Peaton?" the process server asked. "Yes," she replied, irritation dripping from every word. "You've been served." The mask cracked. For the first time, her smug composure faltered. In court, the evidence was airtight. Judge Thompson, a no-nonsense veteran, reviewed everything in disbelief. My deed predated the HOA by 14 years. The property had never been part of any HOA territory. Patricia's historical map? Fabricated nonsense. "Mrs. Peaton," Judge Thompson asked, peering over his glasses, "did you verify the property records with the county?" Patricia straightened like a queen. "I have executive authority as HOA president to make development decisions in the community's best interest." The judge was unimpressed. A full injunction was granted. An independent appraisal for damages ordered. The district attorney was free to pursue criminal charges, but that was just the start. I also filed a civil lawsuit against the HOA for trespassing, unlawful development, and illegal land conversion. Sarah Chen, my tactical genius of an attorney, ensured every HOA member received notice that their dues had funded Patricia's personal mansion. The revolt was immediate. At the emergency HOA meeting, the room was standing room only. Margaret, Patricia's longtime ally, broke first. "I had no idea she was using our funds for a personal mansion," she admitted, wringing her hands. Then neighbors spoke up. $500 fines for uneven shutters, the vegetable garden debacle, petty citations for garage paint color. "I move for a vote of no confidence in our current president," said Dr. Peterson, a soft-spoken neighbor fined multiple times for mailbox violations. The vote was unanimous. Patricia was removed in disgrace, escorted out as she ranted about ungrateful peasants and architectural integrity. 2 months later, the civil judgment landed, $2, $3 million in damages, plus full ownership of the mansion on my land. Patricia's personal assets were frozen. The HOA's insurance refused coverage for criminal acts. In the end, I legally owned the 9,000-square-foot house Patricia built for herself. To celebrate, I hosted the reclamation barbecue on the marble patio. Neighbors showed up. Burgers, hot dogs, kids in the butterfly-shaped pool, laughter echoing where Patricia once ruled. Patricia drove by later in her modest Prius. Luxury cars long sold. She shouted, "This isn't over! I'll sue you for everything!" Deputy Martinez, off-duty with a burger in hand, strolled up. "Ma'am," he said casually, "you just rolled through that stop sign. License and registration, please. The ticket? $250. She tried to fight it and lost. I converted the wine cellar into a woodworking shop. The marble fountain became a koi pond I cheekily named Patricia's Folly. The butterfly pool remains for now. I now spend part of the year in the mansion Patricia built with other people's money on my land. The irony is sweet, especially during monthly barbecues where music and laughter fill the space she once tried to claim as her empire. The criminal trial sealed her fate. Prosecutors revealed a 15-year pattern of fraud and embezzlement in other states. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts: wire fraud, embezzlement, criminal trespass, conspiracy. The judge sentenced Patricia to 8 years in federal prison and $3.7 million in restitution. As the handcuffs clicked, her perfect facade shattered. 8 years, she shrieked. But I'm the HOA? No, Patricia, I said quietly. Not anymore. Patricia thought she could bend the rules, abuse her HOA power, and claim what wasn't hers. But entitlement and arrogance only go so far, especially when the law and the truth are on your side. In the end, justice was served. The mansion became mine. Patricia faced criminal charges, and the neighborhood finally breathed free of her tyranny. It isn't just a story of a property dispute. It's a reminder. Standing up for what is right, knowing your rights and having the courage to fight back can turn even the most impossible situations in your favor. So remember, neighbors, sometimes the battle for your own backyard can turn into the fight of a lifetime. If you loved this wild HOA showdown, don't forget to like, comment your craziest neighbor story, share with friends, and subscribe to Neighbor Wars HQ for more jaw-dropping neighborhood battles. Justice, drama, and a little irony. This is how neighbor wars are really won.